Hello everyone. In today's video, I will continue the discussion of the Michel Foucault's concept of discourse. In the last video, I discussed about the meaning of the discourse, what Michel Foucault attached in his book, The Archaeology of Knowledge. So I will continue this discussion in the today's video. And in this video, I will discuss the how discourse is produced according to Michel Foucault. So let's begin. In the last video, I ended with a point that the Michel Foucault was more interested in the understanding the rules regulations that produces the discourse, the unwritten rules and regulations in the society that leads to the production of the discourse. So he was interested in these things, and he further extended by saying that in society the people should do the practice of discourse, that is discursive practices. So discursive practices exist. So what is this discursive practices? Discursive practices is actually the legitimate perspectives, legitimate the knowledge that develops within a particular discourse, and this legitimate perspective, or you can say acceptable perspective, or a knowledge base that creates by the agent of the knowledge within a particular discourse, because this discourse is again leading by a certain leading intellectuals or knowledge creators, you can say, or the agents of the knowledge who bears or carrying forward the discourse. So any perspectives develops, or any of the acceptable perspectives or legitimate perspectives or knowledge base develops within this discourse is considered as the discursive practice in brief. So I may discuss it in another video. So how this discursive practice is visible, or how we can understand, here I am giving you an example. When we use the phone call, that is when we do a call, make a call to someone, so we do not directly start with the conversation that we need to do. We do not directly ask them the purpose of the calling. First we do a brief introduction, like how are you and what you are doing these days, and what about your health. In this way, certain kinds of the talks we do in the initial part of the talk conversation, even if it is a small call, and then we start the talking about the important or purposive things. So this particular the phone call manner is called a phone call manner, you can say. This particular phone call manner has not written anywhere. It is rather because of the discursive practices. That peoples follows it. Why? Because this manner is considered as the very well mannered or rational or acceptable conversation before starting any means the purposive talk in the phone. So this is again the product of, or this is again the product of the knowledge creators or agent of the knowledge who means the produces it, who means makes it more acceptable in the society. So usually we do not feel the existence of these discursive practices. When anyone do not follow this particular norms, this particular phone call manner, then we get to know, then we come to realize that certain things is missing. So this is how this discursive practice, the practice of the discourse exists in our everyday life, and this has become an acceptable and very legitimate the way of talking, and you cannot deny it. So ultimately it is the legitimation who has given the knowledge, agent of the knowledge, the leading intellectuals within a particular discourse, that is discourse of conversation, for example, discourse of communication. That's these things are important for doing a complete and smart and rational the communication, and rational the interaction or conversation. Shaking the hands, for example, is a very important part of the communication. So who told, where it is written that shaking hand is important for doing conversation? It is the agent of the knowledge who developed this particular the practice, and gradually it accepted as a important and essential part of the communication. So this is how the discourse practices by the peoples in the society. Now we will discuss the how discourse is produced. So according to Michel Foucault, there are two procedures through these the discourse is produced. So according to him, these two procedures are external exclusion and internal exclusion. So external exclusion are again three types. So what are these three external exclusions? There are basically three types of external exclusions that mentioned by Michel Foucault. Number one is taboo. Number two is distinction between mad and sane, and third one is the distinction between true and false. Now come to the point of the taboo. What is it? So it basically, this taboo basically imposes restriction over human beings thinking over their action activities. For example, the talking about the sexuality in public is considered as taboo. You cannot talk about your sexuality in public. That is why in some society expression of transsexualism or transsexuality is not acceptable, is considered as deviance. Why? Because you cannot talk about your sexuality in public. So this is a kind of taboo. In some society you cannot marry within a particular circle or network. So this kind of taboo is there. So this taboo basically imposes the thing, impose a restriction or constraint over individual's mind thinking and their the activities. Then second type of the external exclusion is the distinction between mad and sane. Here Michel Foucault in his work The Madness and Civilization tried to discuss how the words or how the talk of the mad is not acceptable in the society, that nobody attends the talk or sayings of the mad people. Mad is considered as the sick, means the sick whose words, whose statements, whose sayings cannot be attended, cannot be acceptable. And sane is the person who is whose words, whose statements are acceptable in society. So it is basically the discourse who defines who is mad and who is not mad. So this is because of the modern society, because modern society has developed the new sciences of understanding people's behavior. Earlier there was no such science existed, so there was no distinction between mad and sane. But now the distinction between mad and sane is possible because of the new modern medical discourse according to Michel Foucault. Third external exclusion is the distinction between truth and false. Here Michel Foucault believes that those who are in authority, they can they can exercise this power over their statements. That means their speech, their words, their statements are considered as the truth. That is, those who are in the power or in the authority or in the position of the power, they can make others think that their statement is true, and other statesmen in opposite to that may considered as the false. So this is again, he has linked this this relationship between truth and false with the power. So these are the three external exclusions that produces the discourse according to Michel Foucault. Then second type of exclusions mentioned by Michel Foucault is the internal exclusion. So here again he categorized four types of internal exclusions. So number one is commentary, and second is the author, and third one is discipline, and fourth one is rarefaction of the subject. So commentary means here commentary means a person or a person's writing, a person's statements over others' work. Suppose a person who is writing or reviewing a person's works, and this person is considered as the expert in that author's the works and or this researches. So this author, this person who writes or who can review, who can understand or analyze or interpret the others works, and became recognized as the expert, is one of the important internal exclusion that leads to the discourse. That means, for example, I am talking about, now just I am explaining the Foucault. So if I become a very expert, the interpreter or the analytic of the Michel Foucault's works, so peoples will start following my commentary. So there will be a different kind of discourse of understanding Michel Foucault. So this is how commentary leads to the development of the discourse. There are numbers of works which produced by the intellectuals, thinkers, philosophers, and in course of time the other peoples emerged and they start reviewing their works, write their works, start talking, delivering speech over their works and researches, and becomes the expert in the field, and ultimately they starts a particular kind of discourse. Second comes the author. Author here does not means a person or a group of person. Here author is a kind of the is a notion, that is author. There is what makes a person author is the collection of certain text. A collection of certain text makes a person author. There is certain texts which individual forms as a whole in a particular piece. It may be in the form of book or a booklet or any other, and becomes the author. So it is the author's, means the author's own way of understanding things, own way of interpretation, and that ultimately leads to a discourse. Any author, here author does not mean that a particular author or particular authors is creating discourse. No, authorship, this notion of author. If this authors has certain kind of text, certain kind of collection of text that has similarity within itself and can produce the discourse in course of time. Third internal exclusion is the discipline. Here discipline is not that we follow in our everyday interaction activity or means the action. Here discipline means the field of the knowledge, field of the study. So there are certain disciplinary boundaries exist. Suppose I belongs to sociology, so I will have a specific discourse, a specific the specific discourses to understand the society, to understand the world and phenomena around me. Then the medical science is again another discipline that looks into the phenomena in a different way with the help of the medical discourse. So different disciplines have their own boundary. You cannot go beyond the boundary. So persons in a particular disciplines follow the discourse of this particular discipline, this particular field. For example, I am giving you a small example like suicide. Suicide is studied by Durkheim as a social fact. Now, psychology as a discipline studies suicide as the psychological problem or mental disorder of the people. Medical science consider it as a disease, as a physiological problem according to the medical discourse. Sociology, that is Emile Durkheim sociology, studied the suicide as social fact from the sociological discourse, that is the discourse that existed in the that is there in the sociology discipline. So this is how disciplinary boundaries works, and it leads to the development of discourse further, or it makes a shape and forms the discourses. The fourth one is the rarefaction of the speaking subject. Here rarefaction of the speaking subject means, according to Michel Foucault, is the distinction between the speech, the speech into authoritative and non-authoritative. That is, who can speak authoritatively and who cannot speak authoritatively. Means one category of peoples in the society who can speak authoritatively, that is their speech, their statements have to be followed by others, or other peoples who easily or means happily or willingly accept the speeches and the statements. Here I am giving you the example of medical discourse. So in medical discourse, who is the dominant authoritative persons to speak? The doctors. Doctors' speech and statements are considered as the authoritative. They can only tell you about the disease and its treatment and diagnosis and the way of cure. Others have to follow it. If others do not follow, so means you are out of the medical science, or you are out of the modern trend of the medical practices. So ultimately, it decides who can speak authoritatively and who cannot speak authoritatively. These things exist in every field. So these are the four internal exclusions. So these external exclusion and internal exclusion procedures ultimately leads to the formation of discourse in the society. So this much I have discussed in the present video. I will continue this discussion in the next video. So please be connected, and please put your comment in the comment section. Like the video, subscribe and share it, and recommend to others. Thank you very much.